On this episode of AutoXandTrack, we're going to try and repair the hood off the AutoXandTrack Mustang. A little bit of dust on this thing at the moment from sanding on some fenders. The hood got kind of folded in half. So we got some damage here, crack here, crack here, crack. This piece completely came off. See the other side of those cracks here and here, and then it broke off here. So what I'm thinking is try and do some repairs on the bottom, because that'll be easier to practice on. Even though, because the hood got folded, this middle part came up, so the damage is actually worse on the top layer than the bottom. But I've watched enough Parlay Revival fixing their sailboat fiberglass that I'm going to try their technique where you go through and you basically grind out and feather out the edges and do 3 or 4 layers, 2 to 3 layers maybe on this hood, because it's not a sailboat, of progressively larger sizes. So you kind of try and make a shallow bowl. And yeah, so before it gets too hot, I'm just going to try and grind out the bottom spots on this hood. We have finished repairing all the cracks from the bottom side of the hood. So it's time to glue this structural piece back on. Got a few, I just wiped this all down with acetone to clean up the mating surface. And now my alarm's going off. But I got the 3M panel bond, so I'm gonna go get that and we'll be right back. And we're back. This glue gun took forever to set up and adapt for like the different size cartridge. Hopefully it's gonna work. All right, you're pushing, and there it goes. 3M panel bonds, time to make a mess. Said to squeeze out the first like inch or two. Okay. All right, instructions are to separately apply this to each piece, spread a thin layer, and then put your bead in. So that's what I'm going to do. Well, for better or worse, clamping is underway, or I should say bonding is underway. And we're back working on the Mustang. Finally, Sophie's back to help. Sophie, are you excited that we are not pulling an engine today, or sad?
I think I'm excited.
Yeah, so she's here to help. Lots of little things to do. We got to redo a lot of the oil lines here for where I'm going to mount the oil cooler now that we have no inner fenders. So we got 2 or 3 oil lines at a minimum to do. Got to finish installing the oil cooler, mount it up here. Got to install fab a radiator bracket. We're going to do the pin on hood all 4. Part of the reason I left these inner fenders is I was going to use the hood hinges, but Yeah, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try pin on all four corners. So we're gonna need to make brackets for the hood pins back there, brackets for the hood pins up front here. And then if we get all that done, and I'm feeling brave, might be time to cut up these brand new fenders and mount the fender flares. Think we can get that all done?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, I like your confidence.
Yeah.
Any Chuck Norris jokes today?
Oh my god. I should have one, but I don't.
You had one last time, so I just didn't know if you...
Did you know Chuck Norris built a hospital?
Yeah?
It was the hospital he was born in.
Nice, nice. If you got any more Chuck Norris jokes, drop them in the comments. Let's get to work. We're back in the garage, working on the Mustang. We are getting close, folks. We are getting close to this thing driving again. Although it's taking way, way longer than I thought. So just to recap where we're at, the engine has run now. We've got all the plumbing in, the front core support in, the radiator, all the new locations for the power steering remote reservoir, the oil remote filter, the lines going through the core support to the cooler. So this morning already, we've mounted the hood pin brackets here for the front of the hood. I couldn't find the nut, so I haven't replaced this yet with the black style there. We've mounted the shock canisters, routed the hose so they're not gonna get hit by the tires. And I am waiting for a new oil breather catch can, because I really don't want to have to mount this one over here somewhere off this bar looking janky. I'd like to be able to slide it in here, but the one I have has the fitting on the side instead of the front. Since I can't TIG, I just ordered a cheap one on Amazon to try. But this is where we're putting the rear hood pins, is right here on either side. And I'm gonna probably do this one first, drill through the hood, and then once the hole is in the hood, I'll measure that and match it on this side so it's at least kind of parallel. I don't know if I put this on video yet. Super annoying when I figured this out, mounting the hood pins for the front, but whoever set this car up originally Look at how much space there is between the gold stripe and the hood pin hole on this side versus this side. Because they didn't center it. What the hell? Seriously, person who built this car, what the hell? But I'm trying to keep this hood. It's beat up. I've fiberglassed the hell out of it. This is going pure race car these days. But yeah, so we're gonna drill that hole and try and figure out how to line it up perfectly there. I might do the old grease trick on the tip of the hood pin so it'll transfer to the hood. And yeah, let's get to it. Time to take a little break working on this and move it under its own power for the first time since the accident, since the crash. So all the hood pins are in now. Put those ones in the back, drilled holes in the hood. I would have been a heck of a lot more nervous doing this, except this hood has already got lots of cracks and blemishes, so came out pretty good. It's just a hair to the passenger side, but that's kind of the way all these fenders line up. And unfortunately, I forgot that this inner fender, when they reinstalled it, the old owners, they installed it like a 1/4 of an inch too far in. So when I put that one like max in, this one couldn't match it. So this one, I don't think anybody's gonna notice, but they're between 1/8 of an inch and a 1/4 inch off. I can live with an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch. 2 inches, another story. So anyways, yeah, let's fire this thing up and take it for a little test spin. I can't turn too sharp because I don't want to mess up the fenders, but at least you can get it out of here, clean up under the car before I make a bunch more metal when I cut these fenders. But yeah, I just want to take it for a drive. Actually, I guess we don't have to stop recording just yet. All right. Hard to do this with one hand when it's cold.
racing or nothing. Just find out if we got leaks and see how she runs.
Yes, the car is running and driving under its own power again. Just putted around the block. And we did have a little bit of coolant leak, which can't tell if that's from before or still leaking. Tighten the lower radiator hose though, and hopefully that takes care of it. I'm honestly surprised how mangled the radiator and oil cooler got in the crash that they did need to be replaced, but I'm trying to get away with doing this on a budget. But where before, it just felt like this mountain that never ended, there's light at the end of the tunnel. Today, we are installing the fender flares back on the front of this thing. I've been putting it off, cutting these fenders up, but yeah, got to get it done. Bought some Clecos, got a fresh Sawzall blade. I've been debating between Sawzall, cut-off wheel on a grinder, or some have suggested jigsaw. But the jigsaw, there's no way I'm not gonna accidentally bang into the fender with the jigsaw. So I'm hoping a fresh Sawzall blade is gonna let me make that arc the easiest. We'll find out. Yeah, but today, it's all about these. So I get asked all the time when people see pictures of this car and they haven't seen it before, where do you get those flares? What are those flares? Well, these are Maier Racing. They call them the molded flares. I think 3 1/4 or 3.5 inches of additional clearance. And most guys will body work these in and mold them to be seamless. But I really like the look this car has with the rivet install. You know, maybe for a street car, you might not like it, but I don't know. It just looks meaner to me. And in the situation like I had, where I had a tire wall, you know, I can reuse these fairly easily. This is the passenger side. The driver's side, not quite as good a shape. This one, I don't think I had to do any fiberglass repairs. This one, I fiberglassed, repaired the underside. The top, I still need to body work this, but I figured I can do that on the car. And if worst case scenario, I need to show up to a race with this little patch, that's okay. But yeah, let's figure this out. Get to it. Taped up the fender to try and minimize scratching. Got this thing taped up on there. It's not totally obvious where it should go, because if you line up the edges down here, where basically the inside edge of this fender is kind of in line with there, and the inside edge of this fender is kind of in line with there, the arc itself is a little funky. To be honest with you, I have no idea what it used to be like. I'm not sure there's a way to get a good measurement. I guess I could see the paint line on this fender on the wall, my new wall of shame. Let's see, I'm gonna get a step stool and measure how far back that edge is from the front lip, and probably do the same on this side just to get a baseline. Granted, I think the design of these flares, the mold was probably made back in the 70s. So not taking anything away from those guys probably did better work with their hands than we do today. But I also don't think the expectations were as high for quality. So the chances of them being perfectly symmetrical side to side, hand laid, is not high. I don't know if I should be measuring off the old fenders, given the same people that installed these fenders are the same people that put this hood pin 2 inches further towards the middle than this hood pin, but it still just boggles my mind. But using this other fender here since it's pretty straight right here from this fender bolt hole or bumper bolt hole to the edge is 3 inches. I've got this basically 3 inches in the same spot. Well, to make sure that we're only using part of the tape measure, it's right there. Yeah. Maybe a hair forward. This is the kind of stuff that I'm gonna agonize over for like hours today, get it all done, and never think about again. All right, mystery solved. This driver's side fender compared to this passenger side fender is almost an inch wider on that side. Now some of that is probably because this is trimmed at least a little bit down here. It feels like. I don't know because I didn't buy these new, but see if I can get this one-handed. That's just over 40 inches outside to outside, and inside to inside is 32.5 or so. Inside, inside. Come on. Here, you can see there's a little piece broken off, but it would only get wider, but it's already bigger. It's almost a full inch wider on this side. And then if we do, so inside to inside is almost an inch wider, and outside to outside is over an inch wider. So yeah, not gonna be worried about trying to make those match perfectly side to side. They don't. What gives, Maier Racing? I still love these fender flares, but that's kind of silly. I did talk to an insider in the industry, and he did warn me that you know, these molds that are made, handmade back in the day, and you made on opposite sides of the car, was very difficult to get symmetrical, or they didn't even try. Because all right, well, the tape hinged the top of the flare, so I could lift up with the flare. I would feel my finger until where it got pinched, lift up with the flare and mark these lines, and on the end I could just hold the pin on the outside how much depth I wanted, hit it against the fender and draw it on the sides. That didn't work on the top because the fender is too deep. And so this is kind of, I think, what the cut needs to look like. So here's you know, I used to be able to draw, but you wouldn't know it looking at these lines. Definitely easier off the paint. So I'm just gonna go hair down. Thing is, once we get out here, like, there's so much room from the tire, there's not much point in cutting way in to remove strength from the fender. So I'm just gonna arc it like that. So maybe for the first cut, I'm gonna cut just inside of this, especially on the ends. Here's a narrow spot I got to be worried about. Height, I want pretty much all the height I can get. So there to worry about, maybe right here. So we'll try cutting inside there. Both sides are cut out. That's about where I think I want this fender flare. And this is about where this one goes, I think. Just remembered, I'm getting all anxious to start drilling holes and doing rivets. I haven't mounted a wheel and tire on this side. So let's mount the wheel and tire, drop the car back down, and check clearance on this side before, well, maybe I'll go ahead and rivet this side while it's in the air and everything else. So I don't have to, do I have to take the wheel off again? I guess I don't have to take the wheel off again until I paint it. I am going to paint the edges of the fender that are all raw right now, but I'm going to put this fender flare on first. That way, when I'm spraying from underneath, less chance of overspray getting out onto the fenders. All right, we got one side done. Well, sort of. Still have to patch the top of this fiberglass and then paint the exposed metal lip. But I had to put it back on the ground so that I could check this side. I just pulled the fender off. The fender has plenty of clearance. The flare, I mean. This right here, I might just arc this out right there. This has to be cut because it gets uncomfortably close to the tire. I can't even get a finger between the tire and that. So I'm going to make those cuts tonight, and then my back is fried from 2 days straight working on this thing. So we're going to have to get back out here after work a few days. All right, quick little session in the garage after work. Trying to make this thing come together more and more. We now got the fender flares on both sides fully riveted in. You see this tape line right here is for, I was painting the edge of the fender where I cut it off, and basically letting the fender itself be the paint stop, but I didn't want any air because this is not airtight to slip through and create overspray on the fender. But what we're working on right now, excuse the messy workbench, not that it's ever totally clean, but this Mustang project has been ongoing, I haven't cleaned it yet, is the catch can. All right, my other camera died, don't know why, while I was cutting this off, but looks like I was able to cut through the bracket without getting into the canister. So this thing's off. Now I can buy a new bracket that'll go below, because I do want it lower than this. I don't want these in the way. I'm probably going to hit this with the flap disc just to clean up a little bit. Now I can spin it and don't have to buy a new canister. That's cool. One small job done. This makes 5 days in a row working on the Mustang. I haven't been able to do this in months, and it feels good. All right, one of the last things we need for this car to be road race ready is a new front tow hook. So, the old one got demolished and was ugly. So we hit up Vince at Mean Streets Performance, who put together this bracket for us that uses a Renline tow hook. Threads in, removable. Not that I'm ever taking it off on this car, but I thought this would be a nice clean way to do it. So the paint should be fully cured at this point. Next thing is measuring where to drill the hole in the front valence, which I'm gonna go find one of my center punches that fits in this, maybe put some grease on it to mark the inside. All right, we got a mark. Next step, drill. All right, one step closer to being race ready. I think we're almost there, actually. At this point, I'd been working on this car about a year and had not made a video and was getting burnt out on videoing. So I didn't record much more footage before the first test day, which will be coming up in the next video. Really, the only thing I didn't record was I went and got the right rear fender painted so it wasn't primered. Since the front fenders came with a black primer on it, the car was all one color. I could take it racing. So I got the right rear quarter painted and then went out and took it to an autocross to test. Super excited to show you guys that video, and of course the first trip back to the track coming up. Hope you enjoyed the rebuild series. Thanks for watching. That's a wrap.